Welcome back to r/LegalAdvice, where people ask questions, get advice, and we get satisfaction. If you are new around here, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. This one is titled, I want to get a new job, but my boss owns all my possessions and is going to take everything away if I leave. I don't think this is right, but don't know who to call. Dallas, Texas. This is kind of a long story, but I am 19 and want to leave my job and go find a new one I can do part-time so I can finish school. My boss is okay with me leaving, but the problem is that he won't be able to support me anymore if I do, which means I will lose everything I own, and now I don't really know where to turn. I started here when I was 16. A guy I knew got a big suite in a hotel, which is one of the nicest ones in Dallas. We had a party here. We were drinking and it got out of control and people threw up in the room and caused a lot of damage around the hotel and stole a bunch of things. The next morning I woke up to a manager in security yelling at me. My friends were all gone but left me sleeping. The manager took me to his office and I was crying and begged him not to call the police, so he said I could start coming in after school and helping them clean rooms and do dishes in the kitchen to work off the money from all the damage. And he would not call the police. After a few weeks I told him I could not anymore because my parents would not drive me since I was not bringing home any money to save, and they said he was taking advantage of me. But I just did not want to tell them that I was working to pay off the debt, and I did not listen because I know they did not know the full story. So he bought me a used bike to use and said he wanted me there every day until the damage was all paid plus the bike. Over the next couple of months he got more and more demanding, and every time I asked how much more work I had to do, he always just said he will tell me when I am finished, and if I don't want to, he can just call the police, so I just kept working and doing what he said. He changed my hours to 4 to 12 every night and it was affecting my school. He's a nice guy and did not want my grades to suffer, and I always had to bring him my report cards, but he said do not drop out. But when I turned 18, I stopped going to school and just slept in the day. When he found out, he said I had to be here pretty much all day if I'm not going to be in school, which I hate because I don't really have any time for friends or my girlfriend. Then things got rocky with the rents and I said I wanted to leave, and my boss is house sitting for a family that lives in India. It has been great except a couple months per year I have to move out because they are coming home. They don't know that I live there for the rest of the time. It is not all bad because I have lived comfortably. He lets me take home food from the hotel that is left over from the very upscale restaurant, and the house I live in is really nice, and if there are books or other things in the gift shop that no one buys, sometimes he lets me take those too. Still, I have told him several times that I don't want to be paid, but he always says I owe him and will not tell me how much the damage was or how much I have worked off. I know the statute of limitations is 3 years, and after that he cannot press charges against me. So yesterday was 3 years exactly, and I told him that I know he cannot have me arrested anymore and that I want to quit. He said that is okay, but he bought my bike, all the good looking clothes I have, and all the essentials I needed since I was 16. Now he is saying if I don't work for him anymore that I cannot live in the house and I have to give him back all the things he bought for me to use during my job. He has got me a lot of things, but I have seriously no money, so there's no way I can leave the job. When I need something I just ask him, and if I'm doing well at work he will buy it for me, so I don't even know where to start to rebuild my life after this place. Are there resources for cases like this? Is there a way to make him let me keep everything until I am on my own feet? Thank you, Reddit. Edit Monday morning. Wow, I am so overwhelmed to look again this morning and see all the responses. I cannot believe how much bigger of a deal this is than I realized. I know from an outsider perspective how crazy this must look, but it was just so easy to fall into this thing and hard to get away from. I called 2 law offices today and both were closed, but I did the contact form, so hopefully they will call me back. I also tried the police, but they said it sounds like a civil issue and said I should contact a lawyer also. I told them what you guys said, that he was basically using me as a slave, but they said unless he was physically detaining me against my will, that it is nothing they can help with. Thank you so much for all the help." And a user in the comments said, "I am not a lawyer, but here's my rant. I want to put my fist through this man's face. First off, you were not liable for damage to the room or the actions of your friends. Yes, police might have been called and you would have been asked to supply names, etc., but being the last person in the hotel room does not mean you were responsible for the acts of others, especially if your name was not on the room. Secondly, how much damage could have been done? It sounds like he had you working at least 40 hours a week for 3 years and more hours after you left school. Take-home pay for minimum wage at 2,000 hours a year is going to be about $10,000, so you have paid him, more like he has stolen from you, $30,000. That is a lot of effing damage. Third, it looks like there's no longer anything he can report to the police or sue you for. The statute of limitations for civil damages is 2 years. Underage consumption in Texas, I think, a Class C misdemeanor, which also has a statute of limitations of 2 years. If this a-hole wanted to report you to the police, he missed his chance. If he wanted to sue you, he missed his chance. Fourth, it is illegal to threaten somebody with a criminal report in order to extort services from them. Looks like it is classified in Texas as theft. Fifth, even if the extortion of services was not illegal, it is illegal for him to just keep your paycheck because he claims you owe him money. He does not have a judgment against you and he will never will now that the statute of limitations is up. So you don't legally owe him a dime and you never did. 6. Even if you did owe him the debt, you are free to work wherever you wish to pay it back. Lastly, if you are dropping out of school was in any way related to the long hours you were working, his illegal extortion has damaged you beyond the withheld paychecks. Go to a lawyer, there's absolutely nothing bad that can come of it. As pointed out, any lawyer you consult with is bound by attorney-client privilege, so even if the attorney's advice is to just let it go, not sure why it would be though, the worst that would happen is you just leave his office. But this a-hole has victimized you, stolen your money and caused you real problems with his illegal acts. I think you will find an attorney eager to help and my guess is you are owed at least $30,000. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so don't take this as legal advice. And wow guys, I gotta say, this is an absolutely incredible story. And you can tell that the OP is young, but I don't think this is a fake story or something. This honestly sounds like slave work. Let's see what happens in the update. And by the way, if you enjoy r/LegalAdvice, please don't forget to like the video and post some star emojis in the comments. Thank you so much in advance. Update to Sunday's post, my boss not paying me for 3 years and threatening to take everything if I quit. Thank you all so much for your advice this weekend. I am literally in the middle of the craziest day of my life today. Looking back, I feel like my situation was way over the top, but it took hearing all of you say it and calling it slavery and then going and talking to these lawyers for it to really hit home what he has put me through over the past 3 years. I will write more later, but just want to give a quick update because I am so excited I can hardly focus. Yesterday I googled the top employment law firms in Dallas and sent some emails. I got a call from a lawyer saying he wanted to meet with me first thing in the morning. My mind was racing all night and I did not get to sleep until after 3 AM and I needed to leave by 7. I printed out about 50 pages of emails I have with him over the past 3 years. I never delete anything and also made notes from some of his voicemails. After about 5 minutes talking to me this morning, he asked if it would be okay for some of the other lawyers he works with to join us, and I spent about 2 hours answering their questions and taking them through everything. The moment this all sank in for me of how big of a deal this is was when I saw one of the lawyers tear up a couple of times while I was talking. Honestly, it never felt like such a big deal to me before, but now I am seeing it from a whole new light. In the end, they said they will 100% take my case and I won't have to pay them anything up front, and they just need a few days to do some research before we meet again and talk about the details, which is going to happen on Friday. Like a bunch of you said, they told me it is a lot more than just a pay issue and that there are a lot of parts they need to explore about lost wages and also criminal charges that he will 100% face, but that they need to talk about the strategy first. They also said, since I am over 18 now, that my parents don't need to know anything or be involved in any way. When we were finishing, the main lawyer I was talking to asked what I was doing the rest of the day. I told him I thought I was going to play it cool until we actually sue him and I would go to work after this. I called in sick this morning and said I would be in after lunch. He said, "Will you excuse us for just a minute?" And they went in another office to talk for a few minutes. When they came back out, they asked me if I want to stop working at this job and get out from under this guy. I said yes, so he said go home and pack my things, and they are going to make arrangements for me this afternoon. He said I am never going to work there again and should not answer any calls or messages from them ever again. So I've been home now for a few hours packing, and then I got this email from their office. OP, it was a pleasure meeting you this morning. XX asked me to get in touch to share details of the accommodations we would like to provide, as well as some logistical information in advance of your Friday meeting. We have made a 30-day reservation for you at some place which is closer to our offices, and XX. I've attached a copy of your reservation confirmation. Please note that it has been paid in full. XX from our office will be in touch around 4 o'clock this afternoon to check in on how things are going and coordinate with you on getting your things out of the house and into the hotel. She will also provide you with some spending money for any immediate essentials and get you set up with an UberX account to make transportation to our offices a little easier next time. Although we hope to represent you in these matters, we are providing these accommodations at no cost and with no obligation on your part. This is intended to help bring a more immediate stability to your living situation so you can focus on next steps in your life. Thank you again for getting in touch with us. We look forward to seeing you again soon. I am assuming if they are willing to do all this for me and spend all this money, that they think they are going to make a lot of money from this, which probably I'm also going to come out well. So I am beyond thrilled with how this is turning out so far and 100% want to work with them. I still have a ton to pack and just wasted an hour on the internet, but am going to get back to it now. Thank you all so much for pointing me in the right direction. And another person in the comments said, "Just read your first post and all I can say is, what the F? Glad you decided to get legal counsel, and all I would suggest now is that as much as people here are going to beg you to do it, you do not post a single word more about this entire situation without your lawyer's explicit approval. This is such a effed up situation that any publicity may be harmful to your case, so don't take any chances." And another person agreed, "Yes, this, also show these posts to your lawyers as soon as possible and do what they say. It may be prudent to remove this post, but only at the direction of your lawyers." And another person said, "Seconded, especially the part about not deleting anything unless directed to by counsel. Ideally, you probably don't want it to exist in the first place, but now that it is out, you don't want to be seen trying to cover it up." And the final update to the Slⱥve job story. It is titled "More Ups and Downs, but I am finishing my education, made some new friends, back with my parents and actually starting to enjoy life again." I posted here a couple years ago when I was stuck working for someone who threatened to have me arrested over some room damage my friends caused. Sorry, I cannot find the post, but some of you may remember. A lot has changed since then, and the advice I got from all of you has been such a big part of it that I have thought about this frequently and wanted to come back and write something to update you. The firm I hired was the best thing I could have ever hoped for. They got me out from under his thumb immediately and helped me get back on my feet without having to be under my boss or my parents or anyone else. During the days after that, I basically lived in their offices for a few months when this started, since we were going through 1,000 emails and voice messages talking about the context behind them all and trying to make a long timeline of events and tell them everything that ever happened with him. It was so emotionally draining, but their team was very supportive and helped me get through these hard times. When it was all laid out in front of me, the guilt over what I did to my life really took hold. How could I be so stupid? It is so obvious what he was doing. Simple math said that none of this made sense, but I just did not see it. I think part of it was because of my parents and not wanting to listen to them so much that I decided they had to be wrong when they tried to get me to stop. My lawyer started talking to my boss and his lawyer and the hotel chain's executives and also to the police, and they said there were also some issues that made it possibly a federal crime. None of that registered with me how serious it was. But once that happened and I thought things were going to be okay, he came to the hotel I was staying in. Yes, he actually followed me from my lawyer's office one day, and that is how he found out where I was staying and came to the door yelling at me about how he gave me everything and did everything for me and that this is going to ruin him and his family, and showing me pictures of his kids who he said would starve without him to put food on the table, telling me I blew this all out of proportion and that my lawyers were going to bankrupt his family and put him in prison for life. They never said anything to me about that, and I didn't want his family to suffer so much, but he was also being really mean. He had never yelled at me like this before, and even though he never hurt me in the past, this time I actually was scared. I texted my lawyer to see what I should do, and they came immediately with the police and they arrested him immediately and got me a restraining order. A few days later my mom and lawyer came over while I was taking a nap and woke me up and told me he ended his own life. I have never felt as bad as I did at that moment. It is a feeling I would not wish on anyone. Just a sick feeling in my stomach and my whole body felt numb, and I felt like it was a bad dream I could wake up from, except I couldn't. I had a mental breakdown and spent 2 months in the hospital thinking about all the things he said to me about his family and about me overblowing this, and it made me question everything again. My lawyer said they would handle as much of this as they can without me and just come to me when they had something important they needed my input for. My parents also came back in the picture and were very supportive and were helping more than I ever expected. I asked my mom to bring a printout of all the comments from my first post, and that helped me a lot. I read over them every day just to remind myself that what he did was not okay and that I was right to get help. The most apologetic person was someone from the hotel chain. They said it was a private owned and managed hotel, so my boss did not even work for them, but they still wanted to make sure that I was okay. In the first comments you guys were saying I should be owed at least $30,000. Well, the hotel chain itself paid me more than that just for agreeing that they were not responsible for what he did. Lawyers said it was a generous offer they did not even have to make, and that the person I talked to genuinely felt sick over my situation and wanted to do the right thing. So they told me I should take it and that there was a lot more coming from the franchisee, which actually owns dozens of hotels, but not all from this chain. The franchisee was very defensive at first, but a big turning point was when they realized that one of the managers who was over the hotels in Dallas was actually a guy I saw all the time and who my boss had told the story of me working there, and we talked about it once and he told me he hoped I worked it off soon and wished me good luck. But he knew I was there for years and he was also the one who approved our budget, so he knew they were not paying me. My lawyers were very smart to find this out, and when they did, the franchisee wanted to settle. It was a big settlement. My lawyers got a third. They said it is one of the biggest any of them has ever seen for this kind of case, but they said it was fully warranted. I have enough to live on for a very long time and can also finish my education in hotel management and will have enough left over to start a hotel after if I still want to do that. It has been a blessing, but I also did not realize how incredibly hard it is. I never told anyone about the settlement, but people found out. Everyone comes out of the woodwork and suddenly wants to be my friend again, so the hardest thing is by far trying to figure out who I want to be friends with and who I don't. Little awkward things like you go to dinner with a small group and people look at you like they expect you to pay for everyone just because you got a big payout. Guess who even had the balls to call me the friends I was with all those years ago who left me in that damn room, and my girlfriend who I tried to protect from her parents and did not reveal their names so her Bible thumper parents would not find out she was bi. And yes guys, not a B, but bi. It hurt a lot to hear from them after all these years, very upsetting. Pretty much the only people I really trust now are the people who stuck with me before, but I do have a financial manager who makes sure I am being smart with my money and tells me how much I should use for different things I wanna do. So that is my story, and now I am going to school part-time and also doing a lot of outdoor sports and also got into cooking. Little things like having time for hobbies and fun are a big change for me, and I still feel like it is some new life I am getting used to. I feel like I've lived 4 lives already in these different little phases, but so far this one is my favorite. I still have nightmares sometimes about my old boss and just remembering him yelling at me that day at my hotel and then me hearing that he died. I remember all the times he was nice to me and gave me things and did things for me and gave me dating advice and told me I was smart, pretty, etc. Sometimes I wonder, even as happy as I am now, if it was worthwhile to know that he is gone and his family is suffering and has nothing. My therapist says sometimes the right thing can be hard and hurts, and sometimes bad things happen to good people who don't deserve it, but that I did everything right, so that helps me feel a lot better one day at a time. Wow guys, and I gotta say that was probably one of the most emotional legal advice stories we have ever read. Please tell me in the comments if you agree. This one is titled "Neighbor or the pool company he used responsible for my flooded basement? Need advice." I do have an appointment with the attorney that did the closing on our home 9 years ago. I am posting here to get some talking points and see if anyone has had any experience with something similar. 3 weeks ago today, our neighbor had a pool company begin work on putting an in-ground pool in. The first part included the excavation of the ground where the pool was to go. While they were excavating, they came across an old clay tile pipe. It was draining water into their excavated hole, so the pool company cemented it up. No one knew and no one bothered to figure out where this water was coming from. I cannot confirm what day they plugged the pipe with cement, if it was the same day of the excavation or the next. I know the pool did not go in until the next week. The day after the excavation, I came home from work to 2 inches of water in my basement. Now, it is not uncommon for us to get a trickle of water in the unfinished side of the basement when we get a heavy rain, but this was way beyond that. I went over to the neighbor and asked if it had rained hard that day, and he said that it had rained wicked hard for like 45 minutes. I told him why I was asking, and he was just like, "Whatever." We have never been on buddy terms with these people, so I am starting to think that maybe all the heavy equipment on the lawn between our home has collapsed my drain pipe. My husband and I still did not know what they had done with that pipe. I emailed the pool company and let them know what was going on and what I suspect happened. I get an email back stating there's no way that happened, have a good day. I emailed back that it was quite coincidental and how rude it was to blow me off without even considering it. I did not hear back from them until that Friday, which was approximately 11 days after they did the excavation. The email basically said, "We came across a drain pipe during excavation. It was draining water into our site. We cemented it up, and you need to find the pipe at your foundation and reroute it." Period. The end. Meanwhile, all of the wood paneling and no doubt the walls beneath it are soaked with water. The tiles on my floor are coming up. My husband and I are taking turns missing work to pump water out of the basement. We have had numerous contractors out, and the cheapest estimate so far is $8,000, and that was to put a French drain inside my basement. I don't want to do that as A, it does not fix the pipe issue, and B, they would have to jack up my oil tank and it would be just my luck it would break and I would have oil everywhere, magnifying my problem 100 times. We are still waiting on one estimate from the last contractor that came out last Thursday. He thinks they will be able to dig a trench and run that drain pipe to daylight and the back end of our property. They come highly recommended and very experienced. Read $. I have heard that it is illegal to redirect the flow of water onto someone's property. I can say that drain pipe of ours was on their land, but at the time it was put in 1958. Their house had not even been built yet, and what is now their yard was probably the same parcel as our home. Their home was built 4 years after ours. I think there should be some liability on the pool company for just plugging up a drain with cement without bothering to find out who it would affect. Like, who does that? That had severe consequences for us. I do have my deed. I am lacking a current survey to show my property lines, and I will be getting one, but cannot really afford to do that right now. We have already spent about $2,000 with pumps and hoses and roto-rooter, whatever that is. That first night we thought we had just a plugged up drain, tons of topsoil to level out the yard, new bigger downspouts and various other things to try to keep the water away from the house. To say that I am stressed is the understatement of the year. Every morning I wake up, I wonder how much water is down there. Even when I come home from work, the same feeling of dread washes over me. We had remnants of that tropical storm Isaias last week, and that was a hell of a day. I pumped and vacuumed for 7 hours straight before my husband got home to take over. He pumped all morning before going to work, and then I came home to take over. We now have 2 submersible pumps on the floor and drain plugs in the drains, but they only slow the water down. Does anyone have any advice or experience with something like this? Help! We are in upstate New York. And a user in the comments said, it is unclear as to what the drain pipe you are referring to is draining. Are you on septic? Is it the house drain to the sewer or gutters? You also mentioned that you are concerned the heavy equipment on your property may have collapsed the pipe. Did you give the pool company permission to drive this equipment over your property? And OP's answers in regards to this were no. Obviously, he or she did not give permission. Update: neighbor's pool company plugged up our pipe and now we are flooding. And by the way guys, just in case you are wondering that there are not many comments/advice, the issue is on LegalAdvice that if you post an update to a story, no comments are allowed usually. Either way, our attorney called to say that there's really nothing that we can do. If we go up against this pool company, we likely won't win. I never wanted to sue them, I just wanted to know if I had a good case to ask them to submit a claim to their insurance company. As an insurance agent myself, I know how these things work. Our attorney said he's going to research our neighbor's deed to see if we had an easement or anything, but it is not likely. People in 1958 and 1962, when our homes were built, were not really thinking about things like that or the future. I am so very discouraged right now. I'm going to have to rent a dumpster and empty my basement into it, pull all the paneling off the walls and disinfect everything. There are some built-in shelves that will have to be removed. I am praying that there's no drywall behind any of the paneling. It is beyond belief that someone else can do something that affects another person in such a severe manner, yet nothing can be done to hold them responsible. Shouldn't they have at least tried to figure out what the pipe was doing before they plugged it up? We are having a survey done, another $700 we don't have, but my mom is going to pay for it for us. I am done letting neighbors just do whatever they want, whenever they want, wherever they want. Our neighbor to the rear of us decided to start digging some trenches last summer, and it is on our land. The neighbor next to us, the pool guy, wants to dig a trench between our yards to help with water from the front of our properties. He will need to come onto our land to do so. I don't think, in the state I am in right now, I want him coming onto our property at all for that project. I am tired of being the lie down and take it person. Looks like I'm getting off topic. Like I commented to someone else on the original post, it seems we have pissed off Poseidon in a past life. We lost about 85% of everything we owned in 2011 in a flood, rental property, not the same place as now, and now this. How do we make amends to a Greek god so he will leave us in peace? And guys, I'm wondering, have you ever dealt with some kind of flooding? Have you ever lost a house or any part of your home? I know that certain parts of the US are especially susceptible to these floodings, and my heart definitely goes out to anyone who is affected by something like this. And guys, unfortunately, we have already reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and if you haven't already, please also go to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where I upload exclusive Reddit videos starting at just $3 a month. This is a great way to support me in case you are interested, and the chance for me to become independent from YouTube revenue. Thank you so much for watching, please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.